I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, September the 13th, brought to you in part by VitaFirm. Wean your calves with confidence by using one of VitaFirm's products. Take stress off your calves and make weaning profitable. For more information, go to vitafirm.com. WASDE estimates were lowered, and you see that WASDE, you wonder what it is. It's a World Ag Supply and Demand Estimates. They were lowered for our domestic crop, corn and beans both, and a lot of people were kind of expecting that, but whenever you get hard, firm evidence of it, it's going to make your grain markets go up, and corn was up and beans were up big. Because it doesn't come out after the board closes like your cattle on feed report does. It comes out at 11 o'clock, so there's still time to have an impact on the board. But USDA lowered production estimates on corn, moved them down 415 million bushels. They adjusted harvested acres down 1.2%. Harvested your yield estimates down 1.7%, so it was pretty wild, and went down more. It affected beans even more so. They have lowered the usage of corn, of course, with the low numbers of cattle. I guess they have lowered the amount of feed usage that they think we're going to need. They've also lowered the ethanol usage some. But not enough to make up for the loss in production there. But that was the big reason for your grain markets to be up on Monday to start the day, or to start the week out on our board. But the railroad strike, whole debacle there, we didn't get a whole lot more news on this, although it does look evident that the Magoo administration is going to step in. Which they can do that on something that's going to really affect our whole world, our whole country here, so much of it, and so they're probably going to step in, and so we don't imagine we're going to see a full-on strike, especially with Biden being such a big Amtrak lover. I think he's going to step in there and do something. But you know, there's several unions that were involved in there, 10 or more, and all but 2 of them have reached an agreement. The problem of it is the 2 unions that are left represent about half of our rail workers there, and it does sound like that they've got some pretty realistic demands there. From what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, and people left messages on a last report there, they basically don't get any days completely off. They're on call even if they're not at work. Which we know that's the case in some jobs, but it sounds like, you know, maybe 29 days out of 30, they're either at work or on call, which that does make it kind of tough to go on a trip with your family or do something like that. But they're wanting to get a little more levity in that. Of course, they're wanting more money, which who doesn't? I'd like to have more money myself. But that wasn't the big reason for the grains going up, and it was more just your supply and demand estimates. But let's look at your cattle board for Monday. October live cattle futures ended the session up 7 cents at 145.75, holding pretty strong. And your live cattle didn't let the feeder cattle suck them back this time, because everybody knows that we're tight on fat cattle numbers, and that our chain speeds have been really aggressive. So we're in tight supplies of fat cattle, and it's going to get progressively more tight as we go into the fall, especially when we get deep into the fall. But December live cattle were up 37 cents at 150.135. Your back months on live cattle were unchanged to up 37 cents. Feeder cattle, of course, down, and down hard because of your corn going up, and corn's nearly $7 a bushel, which scares people. September feeder cattle were down $1.47 at 180.152. That's still a pretty significant premium to what your real-time index is. Of course, your CME cash feeder cattle index is closer to that because it's you know, it hasn't realized your markets from Monday yet, but it'll be coming down also. October feeder cattle down 245 at 183.12. Your back months on feeder cattle down 30 cents to down 202. Corn, what we've been talking up 11 cents. Now, I know we've seen a lot sharper gains than that, but we thought it had kind of settled in here as we get started in the Corn Belt with harvest, but up 11 cents at $6.96. That's scaring the hell out of $7 a bushel. Beans up 76 cents at $14.88 and a quarter. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle movement out of your 5-area feeding region was 69,800 head. Now that's kind of disappointing, but it was better than the previous week, which we were heading into a long holiday weekend at 64,500, and a lot more than the same week a year ago, 58,600. But live sales of steers and heifers last week ranged from 138 to 146. There was only 99 head at 138. And the next lowest was 140, so really shouldn't have sucked it down that far. There were almost 1,200 head sell at 146, so that's a little more realistic. But your weighted average on live steers was down quite a bit, ending up after the whole week at 142.48. That was down 40 cents compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales ranged from 224 to 230. There were only 130 head at 224. There were 850 head at 230, but you can narrow it up a little bit there. But your weighted average on dress steers was 226.68. That was down $2.10. So significant losses, dress basis. And your market was just overall lower in the northern plains. Southern plains held things steady at 141. Now, I know that's at a discount to the northern plains, but not as much as what has been running here for the last couple of months. And the northern plains just selling from 142 to 144, maybe up to 145, and the southern plains at 141. So they're not too far behind. Nationwide, pure negotiated sales were 82,400 head, and about 27.5% of those were for that 15 to 30 day delivery. That's fewer than normal, so they're not being able to set this market up for a fall like they would like to do, because they're really wanting the cattle, especially if they're well finished. But 82,400 pure negotiated, 42,300 negotiated grid, 13,700 forward contract, and 244,800 head formula. That's what I'm getting at, guys, is we need more negotiated sales because the formula sales are completely overshadowing all the others, and they're based off the others, which doesn't make any sense if you really think about it. But no trade at all on Monday. We're going into a full trading week. Your packers are buying for a big full week next week with a lot of tailgating going on. We've been clearing out our shelves really good, and our exports have been excellent. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on tomorrow's visit. But box beef cutout values were higher, which maybe should give them a little bit more venom. Choice cuts on Monday afternoon up $1.68 at $258.94. Selects up $1.03 at $235.76. Talk about what else is going on. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma is going to have a really nice sale here today on Tuesday. They're going to have over 3,000 cattle. Jeff Slatton told me probably more like 32 or 3,300. He's got 30 loads of yearlings. He told me 20 of those 30 are good enough to go anywhere, including up in the northern plains to go on feed. They got hair on them, and they're tough enough to withstand any kind of cold. Of those 20 that are good enough to go anywhere, he says he's got 5 loads of home-raised yearlings raised just south of Beaver, Oklahoma there. Never been to town before, and he said they are really, really nice cattle. If you want some really nice feeder cattle, check out Beaver County Stockyards here today on Tuesday. You can go to dvauction.com, call in there and make sure you're approved if you're interested in bidding. They've got 1,000 calves on offer. He says they are some of their best consignments that they get all year. Now, most of them is going to be unweaned, of course, but they are fresh right off the cow. He said the quality is outstanding on those. And then they have a pretty good run of cows also. So a real nice sale at Beaver County Stockyards here today. Talk about your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Monday, based on your 800-pound steer up through your middle 12 states. Cash price 179.77, falling below 180 again. It was below there about a week ago. We were up in the 80s there for a few days, and now we've fallen back below, but it was down $1 from the end of last week. So we saw some high volume sales mostly in the Southern Plains on Monday. We didn't have those last week. It pulled our real-time index down. Don't forget, here today on Tuesday, Western Video Market is having their Haythorne Ranch sale, broadcasting live from Haythorne Ranch near Ogallala, Nebraska. They've got 25,000 head of cattle to sell. Be some really fancy calves and some really nice yearlings, and a lot of them more towards the center part of the country there. That's why they have it there at the Haythorne Ranch. But don't forget, WVMcattle.com. If you want to bid online, go to bidonwvmcattle.com, or just go to dvauction.com and find the Western Video Market sale. Talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards had 10,600 head. They underestimated. They don't usually do that. They usually have a really good feel for what's going to be coming in, but they underestimated at least 1,000 or two. I mean, that just tells you the weather was cool and nice. Guys were ready to move cattle, even though most of them are busy drilling wheat right now in that part of the country, but they still brought in a lot more cattle than they were expecting in Oklahoma City. Compared to 2 weeks ago, because they were closed on Labor Day, feeder steers were mostly steady. Feeder heifers were steady to $2 higher. Steer calves $4 to $8 lower, mostly on the unweaned types. Heifer calves were unevenly steady. But I tell you what, they called the steers a foot lower, but gosh almighty, they still sold some of them pretty good. National Livestock sold 105 head, weighed 582 pounds at $2.11 a pound. And I thought that was a pretty impressive quote there. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? Had just about what they were thinking, 7,400 head there, which is a pretty good sized run for them. Market was quite a bit lower. They hadn't seen the losses the last sale or two, and they didn't have a sale last Labor Day. They were kind of hanging up there a little bit further up, but they finally came back down to earth on Monday. Market was called $4 to $9 lower. It's really starting to cool off, and they're starting to see the typical fall type weather up there in southwest Missouri. And talked to one of my friends that buys there, and he said there just wasn't quite as much farmer trade on Monday. And if you guys are sale barn broke, you kind of know what farmer trade means. But they just had their regular buyers in there, didn't have any individuals that they don't normally count on coming in there and stirring things up like they have had so far this late summer or early fall here. But still a pretty good sale in Joplin. And don't forget, here on Wednesday, they've got a special cow and bull sale in Joplin. Starts at 4:30 in the afternoon after the weigh-ups are through. Got several nice cow consignments on there. Don't forget that. Then on Thursday, they got a primetime livestock video. Several lots of feeder cattle. It's going to be a video right there from the barn. And check that on primetimelivestock.com. Let's talk about some of your individual quotes from around the circuit there on Monday. How about my buddy Dwayne Penny? Used to be at St. Joe Stockyards. He is marketing his customers' cattle through Tina Livestock in Tina, Missouri. That's extreme rural northwest Missouri there. He told me about the Hunt Farms cattle in Bramer, Missouri. But they didn't sell Bramers. They sold good cattle, local type cattle there. But out of Bramer, Missouri, which is close by, 73 steers weighed 726 and $196. Big time quote there. How about Bluegrass Stockyards, Lexington, Kentucky, the flagship location there. 123 steers weighed 818 in Lexington, Kentucky at $184. Wow. How about our Zoetta stick out sale of the day? They had a lot of loads of cattle on there. I could have quoted a lot of them. A lot of their bigger yearling quotes kind of fit right in with everybody else up there in weighing in the deep in the 8s and in the high 170s, but they don't have a feeder cattle auction real regular there at Tama Livestock Auction in Tama, Iowa. They're more famous for the fat cattle auction, but they did have a good feeder cattle auction on Monday there, and they were, as I had a stick out sale of the day, including this impressive calf quote. 52 head of steer calves weighed 502 at $227.50. That's about the best we've seen so far. How about Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri? My buddy Jack Harrison there, he's got a really good sale, and I tell you what, they had a whopper on Monday, including these 118 head of steers weighed 834 at $187. How about Sugar Valley Stockyards in Gearing, Nebraska? New name, same good market. 73 steers weighed 629 at $205 and a quarter. Wow. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Aberdeen Livestock Sales in Aberdeen, South Dakota. 60 head of steers weighed 916 at $190. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.